Well, welcome to this week's Table Talk discussion. Before we get started, as always, we want you to understand our heartbeat and what we're doing, and I want to give you a couple updates. Obviously, our mission is to feed people physically and spiritually, and we do this every week by providing a hot meal and then meeting people where they're at and loving them to Jesus. We do this by building relationships with them, and so things look a little bit different right now. Clearly, with the state of needing to social distance and other things, so we've gone to a to-go bag scenario. We will continue that. We've got local restaurants providing for us, which has been amazing, and we thank them so much. And we ask that you continue to support them by ordering out and going by and just thanking them for helping out. You can follow us on Facebook, where we've got some live streaming happening so that you can stay up to date with kind of what's going on and who's helping support and those things. So, and then as you're considering coming out and helping us to not just meet the physical need, but also the spiritual need, make sure that you're following the CDC guidelines with things like washing your hands often, social distancing. You know, we want to keep the number of people at a minimum at our sites, but we could still use your help. So if you're not in a high-risk category and you're not feeling ill, then we'd love to have you out to help out, not just with handing out the food, but praying. Maybe pray walking around the sites, around the area. Obviously, we got cars driving up to pick stuff up at the sites, so just walking by and waving and saying hi and asking through the windows if you can pray for folks. It can be a huge way to continue to engage during these times. So in the meantime, we want to continue to engage through media. And so here is this week's Table Talk discussion, and I hope that God speaks to you during this discussion this week. Welcome to this week's Table Talk. My name is Jonah, and I'm here with Aaron, who is actually our ministry director for Feed the Need missions, and we are glad that you're joining us for this week's discussion about Luke. We're going to be looking at Luke 19 through 24, 23. Oops. Last week we had a conversation about Luke 9 through 19, and really looked at the prodigal son. And so, Aaron, what did we talk about last week?
Well, one of the things that we discovered in the prodigal son story is we discovered all the wealth that we truly have access to, and that is all that is the Father's. All that is His, we have access to. And so we looked at, being able to not only realize that, but how can we help other people to realize what they have access to?
That's a really neat thing, and really neat thing to think about. So I hope you guys grabbed a hold of that and put some of that into practice this past week. And this week, we're going to be looking at Luke 19 through 23. So we're going to play the video from the Bible Project, and I hope you guys enjoy. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that you guys get something out of it.
How about let's just go to the video?
Yeah, let's just go to the video. Go.
Leave all that in.
So we're walking through the Gospel of Luke, and we've reached the end of Jesus' long road trip to Jerusalem. He's arrived.
So he rides a donkey down the Mount of Olives towards the city, and all these crowds are forming, and people are singing, "Praise the King who comes in the name of the Lord." They're laying down their cloaks in front of him.
Why all this royal treatment?
Okay, so Israel's ancient prophets promised that one day God himself would arrive and rescue his people and rule the world. Other times, the prophet spoke about a coming king who would ride into Jerusalem to bring justice and peace.
So Jesus is activating all these hopes that he's that king, and everyone's ecstatic.
Well, not everybody. The religious leaders, they think Jesus is a threat to their power, and so they're not happy. But even more striking, Jesus himself is distraught. He's actually weeping as he rides.
Yeah, why?
Well, Jesus can see what is coming. He knows that he won't be accepted as Israel's king, and he knows that Israel will keep going down a destructive path, neglecting the poor, stirring up rebellion against their Roman oppressors, and he knows that it will lead to death. it breaks his heart.
And it riles him up. The first thing he does in Jerusalem is march into the temple courts, and he drives out the money changers, disrupting the entire sacrificial system.
Yeah, he's staging a prophetic protest, and he stands in the center of the courtyard, shouting out words from Israel's ancient prophets. This is supposed to be a place of worship, but you've made it a den of rebels.
A den of rebels.
Yeah, he's quoting from the prophet Jeremiah, who stood in this same spot, the center of Israel's religious and political power. And he offered the same critique of Israel's leaders, that they're rebellious and corrupt.
And they get the message and start to plan to have him killed.
Which is no surprise to Jesus. In fact, he planned that all of this would happen during Passover.
This is the Holy Week when Jewish people celebrate their ancient story of how God liberated them from slavery and invited them into a covenant relationship.
And so Jesus uses the symbols of Passover to reveal the meaning of his coming death. The broken bread was his broken body, and the wine was his blood that would establish a new covenant relationship between God and Israel. Jesus was going to die for his people and open up a new way forward.
After the meal, Jesus takes his disciples to a garden to pray.
And he struggles with the very human desire to save his life instead of sacrificing it, but he overcomes this temptation.
And it's here where the religious leaders, with the temple guards, find him and arrest him.
Now, Jerusalem was being ruled by the Roman Empire, and so the temple leaders couldn't execute Jesus without permission from their Roman governor, a man named Pontius Pilate. And so they make up this charge that Jesus is a rebel king stirring up revolution against the Roman emperor.
Pilate asks Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?"
And Jesus answers, "You say so."
So Pilate can see that Jesus is an innocent man and he doesn't deserve death.
But the leaders keep insisting that he is dangerous, so they negotiate a compromise. Pilate will release an actual rebel against Rome, a man named Barabbas, instead of Jesus. And so the innocent is handed over in the place of the guilty.
Jesus is taken away with two other accused criminals and nailed to a Roman execution device. And people are mocking him. Hey, if you're the Messianic king, save yourself and us.
But Jesus loved his enemies to the very end, offering hope to one of the criminals dying beside him. And he even prayed for his executors. "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing."
And then the sky darkened as an innocent man died the death of a rebel.
And then Jesus cried out with ancient words from Israel's Psalms, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And then Jesus died, innocent and alone.
All right, at the beginning of the video, Jesus is welcomed to Jerusalem as king, yet he's very sorrowful. Why is he sorrowful?
Well, you got to think what he's about to do, right? So he's entering into Jerusalem knowing that he's at the end of this 3-year journey he's been on in our world since his ministry started. And so that's got to be, the burden of that's got to be pretty huge.
Yeah, and he kind of not only does he know what's coming, he knows that they're not really going to accept him as king. Yeah, they might be welcoming him as that, but they're not going to accept him as that.
Yeah, they're not, they don't quite understand what king really means in this scenario. They're looking at the worldly aspect of king and looking for that world king, and he's about to leave.
Right, and he knows that Israel as a whole is really going to just keep on going, doing what they've been doing, neglecting the poor and being rebels against God.
Yep.
So, second question is, why did Jesus drive out the money changers, turn over their tables? Why is that one of the first things he did? He goes in the temple courts, he turns that all over. Why does he do that?
Well, the temple was supposed to be a house of worship, right? And so it was supposed to be a place to worship him, and yet they're not focused on him at all. They're using it in a way that's for themselves.
Right, and we sort of see this theme in that, they're not really truly worshiping, they're being rebels, and sort of that being a rebel against God theme running through the whole thing. And as sort of with the people of Israel, it's looking at juxtaposing Israel's liberation from Egypt and the covenant they received through Moses and the law. How does that compare to then what Jesus came for and what we have access to now, and that's liberation from sin and a new covenant through Jesus? How do those compare with one another?
Well, in the Old Covenant, right, there was all these laws that were put in practice that the Israelites had to do to be able to approach God. And Jesus is now throwing those, the part of needing to do the law, if you will, out the window. Mm-hmm. But there's still a sacrifice that has to happen, right? And so that's what Jesus is coming to do. I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly.
Well, no, that's good. But and that first covenant, that had more about what were you going to do to please God, and were you going to follow the rules? But now it's what has God done for you, and are you going to accept that? Yep. What has He done through Jesus Christ?
Yeah, so it switches from us having to kind of go through these things, these laws, if you will, and doing these rituals to now we just need to receive.
Right, and accept.
Yes.
So, and the point is, as we look at this, back at this video, is Jesus was not at all really surprised. I mean, He was sorrowful, but He wasn't surprised of what was happening in Jerusalem, because He knew that His death would open a new future for Israel, and actually for all of humanity, a new future for us. And so I just want to read 2 Corinthians 5:17 to you. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, the new life has become. You know, when we accept Jesus, what He did on the cross for us, it's the first step in beginning a new life. We actually become a new person. And if you have accepted to Him, I challenge you to share what you've done about your decision with someone else. But you know, if you haven't made that decision, I want to ask you to think about it. Think about becoming a new person, a new life through Jesus. And if you want to know more about that, I challenge you, email us. Ask one of us at one of our sites about how you can begin a new life.
That's good. It's a good reminder for us all to think about every day, for that matter, too. I mean, even those that have put your faith in Christ, you know, we need that renewing daily. And so email us, call us, visit one of our sites. We're here for you. We love you. We'd love to pray for you. You can email us at tabletalk@feedtheneedmissions.org. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You can email us at tabletalk@feedtheneed.org, or visit our website at feedtheneed.org for more information. Again, we'd love to chat with you. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to visit with you at one of our sites. We're still serving every week, and so you can come by a site near you and get a free meal, but also you can ask for prayer, and we'd love to pray for you and continue to answer any questions that you may have about who God is and what He's done through His Son Jesus for you.
We hope to see you again next week. God bless.
Feed the Need Missions Ministry is simply to feed people. We do this by consistently setting up in communities each and every single week, using the burger as a tool to develop relationships that ultimately guide people to Jesus.
God's given us a big vision for this ministry. And it's not just to have a few sites, but to have many sites where we're able to reach many people for Jesus by using a burger as a tool and having this cookout in every town, city, state across the country, and hopefully one day across the world.